The discovery inside apartment 213 of the Oxford Apartments was beyond comprehension. What began as a routine police call quickly spiraled into a nightmare that would haunt Milwaukee for decades. Officers, expecting a simple disturbance, instead stepped into a scene that defied belief, a place where the line between the ordinary and the horrific had been completely erased. Investigators found 7 human skulls, some cleaned and painted, others still decomposing, casually placed in filing cabinets, on shelves, and even in a computer box. Each skull told a silent story, a grim testament to the lives that had ended within those walls. The casual placement of these remains suggested a chilling familiarity, as if death had become a part of daily life in this apartment. This was not just a crime scene. It was a personal museum of death, curated by a man who seemed ordinary. The apartment was filled with everyday objects, books, furniture, a television, yet each item was overshadowed by the macabre collection that surrounded it. The contrast between the mundane and the monstrous was deeply unsettling. The air reeked of acid and decay, hinting at even greater horrors. Investigators struggled to breathe as the stench clung to their clothes and skin, a physical reminder of the evil that had taken root here. Chemical bottles littered the floor, their contents used for purposes too disturbing to imagine. These skulls were only a fraction of the carnage, symbols of the 17 lives Jeffrey Dahmer had stolen. Each one represented a person with dreams, families, and futures, all cut short by unimaginable violence. The evidence collected here would become a grim archive of loss and suffering. For years, disappearances haunted the community, but no one imagined they led here. Families posted missing persons flyers, clung to hope, and pleaded for answers, never suspecting that the truth was hidden behind the walls of an ordinary apartment building. The city lived in fear, unable to connect the dots until it was too late. The evidence turned missing persons cases into a single, terrifying narrative. Detectives pieced together timelines, photographs, and testimonies, slowly realizing that the disappearances were not isolated incidents, but the work of a single, methodical killer. The scale of the horror was almost too much to comprehend. The skulls were silent witnesses, proof that a monster had lived among them, hiding in plain sight. Each bone, each fragment, was a clue to the darkness that had festered behind closed doors. The investigators knew that these remains would speak for the victims who could no longer tell their own stories. The revelation shocked Milwaukee and the world, exposing evil behind an unassuming door. News of the discovery spread rapidly, drawing crowds and media attention as the city struggled to process the enormity of what had happened in their midst. Sometimes, the most terrifying monsters are the ones living right next door. The Dahmer case forced everyone to question how well they truly knew their neighbors, and whether evil could be lurking just beyond the walls of their own homes. It all began on a humid July night in Milwaukee, when Tracy Edwards, desperate and terrified, sprinted down the city streets. A single handcuff dangled from his wrist, glinting under the streetlights, a silent signal of the horror he had just escaped. His heart pounded as he searched for help, every step fueled by the fear that his captor might be just behind him. Edwards managed to flag down 2 police officers, his words tumbling out in panic. He told them about a man named Jeffrey Dahmer, who had lured him to an apartment with promises of drinks and conversation, only to turn violent. Edwards claimed Dahmer had threatened to kill him, and, chillingly, had spoken of eating his heart. The officers listened, their skepticism fading as they noticed the handcuff and the terror in Edwards' eyes. Officers Roth and Muller decided to investigate, following Edwards back to the Oxford Apartments. The building was quiet, its hallways dimly lit, giving no hint of the nightmare hidden within. When they knocked on the door of apartment 213, Jeffrey Dahmer answered. He appeared calm, almost friendly, and insisted that everything was a misunderstanding. He invited the officers inside, his demeanor betraying nothing of the horrors within. But as soon as the officers stepped inside, they were hit by an overpowering stench, a sickly, rotting odor that clung to the air and made their stomachs turn. Something was terribly wrong. While one officer tried to distract Dahmer, Officer Muller began to look around. He opened a drawer and found a stack of Polaroid photographs. What he saw in those images was beyond comprehension, graphic pictures of dismembered bodies, posed and documented in chilling detail. It was undeniable proof that something monstrous had taken place here. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the officers moved quickly. After a brief struggle, they managed to subdue Dahmer and place him under arrest, ending his reign of terror in that moment. That single moment, the discovery of the photographs, transformed what began as a routine call into the unmasking of one of America's most infamous serial killers. The apartment, once just another door in a quiet building, became the epicenter of a national nightmare. The knock on the door, prompted by one man's desperate will to survive, brought an end to years of unspeakable horror. It was a moment that would haunt Milwaukee forever. The mask of the quiet, unassuming neighbor was gone. The truth was out, and the monster who had lived among them was finally revealed to the world. News of the discovery spread quickly, and Milwaukee would never be the same. The city was left reeling, struggling to comprehend the darkness that had lurked in its midst. The nightmare had finally come to light, and the world would never forget the horrors uncovered behind the door of apartment 213. Jeffrey Dahmer grew up in suburban Ohio, outwardly quiet but inwardly troubled. As a child, he was fascinated by dissecting animals, foreshadowing his later obsessions. His parents' bitter divorce deepened his isolation and drinking. By his teens, Dahmer's fantasies revolved around total control over others. He struggled with his sexuality and felt like an outcast. His first murder came in 1978, bludgeoning a hitchhiker and dismembering the body. For years, he appeared to live a normal life, even serving in the army. But the darkness never left, it only waited. By night, he became a predator hiding in plain sight. Dahmer's crimes were driven by a pathological need for control and a fear of abandonment. He killed not out of rage, but to possess his victims forever. He lured young men, mostly men of color, with promises of money or alcohol. Once inside, he drugged them, rendering them helpless. Strangulation followed, but death was only the beginning. Dahmer engaged in necrophilia, dismemberment, and attempted to create zombies by drilling into skulls and injecting acid. He kept skulls and body parts as trophies, integrating them into his living space. Polaroids documented his acts, allowing him to relive his control. His crimes were methodical, ritualistic, and rooted in a fantasy of ultimate possession. The apartment became a shrine to his obsession. On July 22, 1991, Tracy Edwards became the man who broke Dahmer's cycle of horror. That night, he unknowingly walked into the lair of one of America's most notorious serial killers, but his courage would change the course of history. Lured to Dahmer's apartment under the pretense of taking photographs, Edwards quickly sensed that something was terribly wrong. The apartment was filled with a strange, foul odor, and the atmosphere was thick with unease. Suddenly, Dahmer snapped a handcuff onto Edwards' wrist, brandished a knife, and chillingly spoke of eating his heart. The terror was immediate and overwhelming, but Edwards kept his composure. Edwards realized his only hope was to stay calm and play along, carefully watching for any opportunity to escape. Every second felt like an eternity as he tried to read Dahmer's intentions and keep himself alive. When Dahmer's attention wavered for just a moment, Edwards seized his chance. With adrenaline surging, he bolted for the door, the handcuffs still clamped to his wrist, and ran for his life. Bursting into the night, Edwards flagged down a passing police car, desperate for help. He told the officers about the horrors he had just escaped, and bravely led them back to apartment 213, risking his own safety to stop Dahmer. His escape was not just an act of survival, it was the key that unlocked years of hidden terror. The police discovered evidence of unimaginable crimes, finally bringing Dahmer's reign of terror to an end. Edwards' courage forced the truth into the open, exposing the darkness that had been concealed for so long. His testimony would become crucial in the investigation. He became the final victim, the one who got away. His bravery not only saved his own life, but also brought justice for so many others who never had the chance to escape. Because of Edwards' actions, Dahmer was arrested and would never kill again. The nightmare was finally over. One man's will to live changed everything, proving that even in the darkest moments, courage can shine through and alter the course of history. Police searching apartment 213 found a scene of unimaginable horror. A human head in the fridge, 3 more in the freezer, and a blue drum filled with decomposing torsos. Tools of death, saws, knives, acid, were everywhere. Bags of organs, severed hands and feet, and 2 complete skeletons filled the space. Polaroids documented the murders in chilling detail. 11 victims' remains were found in that small apartment. The apartment was a tomb, a monument to Dahmer's obsession. Every item was evidence. Every corner told a story of horror. The investigation revealed the full, horrifying scope of his crimes. The quiet man in apartment 213 was a collector of human beings. Milwaukee was plunged into shock and grief as the details emerged. The Oxford apartments became a symbol of pain and disbelief. Most victims were young men of color from the LGBTQ+ community, their disappearances long ignored. Public outrage grew as systemic failures came to light, especially after the tragic case of Konarak Synthasamphone. Trust in police was shattered, protests and calls for accountability erupted. Vigils and memorials honored the lost, but the city's sense of security was gone. The building was demolished, but the psychological wound remained. Milwaukee was forced to confront uncomfortable truths about itself. The Dahmer case became a somber chapter in the city's history. For the families, the discovery was the start of a new nightmare. Years of hope ended in horror as they learned the fate of their loved ones. Identification was agonizing, often relying on dental records or DNA. The trial forced families to hear chilling details, compounding their grief. Rita Isbell's outburst in court captured the raw pain of all the families. Long after Dahmer's conviction, the trauma lingered. Many struggled with loss, depression, and the weight of public attention. Their journey was a testament to the enduring power of grief. The Dahmer case offers painful but vital lessons. It shows the danger of indifference and the need to see the humanity in everyone. Many victims were marginalized, their disappearances ignored. The tragedy underscores the importance of listening to all cries for help. Evil can hide behind a friendly face. Vigilance and community matter. True safety comes from connection and awareness. The story is one of systemic failure, but also of survival and courage. By learning from this tragedy, we honor the victims and protect the future. If you found this deep dive informative, subscribe for more content.